Angel and show you how to balance equations.
So the idea of balancing equations in the library didn't really work because we stayed a little bit too late and they kicked us out because the library closed. So we decided to balance equations in my car.
Alright guys, so for this equation, we have sodium chloride reacting with oxygen to form sodium chlorate. But before we go into that, we're going to be talking about what a coefficient is, because that's what we're going to be looking for in order to balance them, and what a subscript means. So a subscript is telling you how much of an atom is in it to form the oxygen, like for example for the O2, and the coefficient is used to determine how much of it in total is being used in order to balance them. Alright, so now that we're going to be balancing this equation, just quick advice, just be patient, remain calm, because it is a lot of steps. But the first step is realizing how many atoms are in each compound. So for the sodium in sodium chloride, there's 1. The chlorine in sodium chloride is 1. And the oxygen atoms in oxygen is 2. And now for the product, there's 1 sodium atom, there's 1 chlorine, and there's 3 oxygen. So our whole goal is to balance and make them all equal to each other, but in this case the oxygens do not equal each other. So our first step is to try to make them equal. So we're going to multiply this atom by 3 to form 6. We're going to write that up here and multiply it by 3. Right, so now our second step is going to this oxygen atom and making it equal the 6 that we have by multiplying it by 2. That gives us a 6, but in doing that, it also gives us 2 sodium atoms and 2 chlorine atoms, which makes it unequal. But the cool thing about it is that they're together, so you just have to multiply them both by 2 to form a 2 and a 2, making them equal, check, equal, check, and then equal, check. And that is how you actually balance the equation.
Equation today, we have calcium bromide, which is a solid, potassium hydroxide, which is also a solid, calcium hydroxide, which is a solid, and potassium bromide, which is also a solid. Just cut it. Our job here today is to balance the equations. First, we need to look at the reactant. So calcium has 1, bromine has 2, potassium has 1, and hydroxide has 1. Now we look at the product side. Calcium has 1, hydroxide has 2, potassium has 1, and bromine has 1. Now we need to balance it. First, let's look at the first uneven part. Cross that out, multiply it by 2, and then you get 2. But since we multiplied this by 2, we have to multiply potassium as well. So multiply that by 2, and you get 2. But now, potassium is uneven, so now we multiply this by 2, which gives us 2. And since we multiply that by 2, we also have to multiply hydroxide by 2. And well, would you look at that? We balance the equation. Now we need to fill everything out. So calcium and bromine have 1. Potassium and hydroxide now have 2. Calcium and hydroxide have 1. And potassium and bromine have 2. Now we have balanced the equation.